I spent 15 years raising my daughter, gave her everything, thought I was the perfect father. Then I fixed her broken phone and discovered text messages that destroyed my world. My wife had cheated with my cousin, the baby wasn't mine, and my daughter had known for 2 years and hated me for it. What I did at her quinceañera in front of 200 people made sure everyone knew the truth. Before I go any further, drop a comment right now and tell me where are you watching from? The phone sat on my workbench under the fluorescent lights of my auto shop, screen cracked in a spiderweb pattern. Sophia had dropped it 3 days before her quinceañera, and I'd volunteered to fix it myself. I needed the photos stored on there, pictures of us together from when she was little, back before she started hating me. I was planning a slideshow for our father-daughter dance. Something to remind her that we used to be close. That she used to smile when she saw me instead of rolling her eyes. I'm 39 years old. I own this shop, 3 locations across the Phoenix metro area. 21 years ago I was running with a gang in Chicago, looking at a life that ended either in prison or in a grave. Then I met Elena at a church service my grandmother dragged me to, and everything changed. I got out. Joined the Marines at 19. Served 2 tours in Iraq. Came home and learned a trade. Built something legitimate. Built a family. Or so I thought. The screen came to life under my fingers. I'd replaced the glass, reconnected the display cables, and now I was booting it up to make sure everything worked properly. The lock screen appeared, a photo of Sophia with her friends at the mall, all of them staring at their phones instead of the camera. I knew her passcode. She'd never changed it from her birthday backwards. I typed it in, planning to go straight to the photo gallery. That's when the messages started popping up. The first notification was from Elena. My wife. Remember, don't say anything to him about Saturday. Marcus is coming over while he's at the shop. My finger hovered over the screen. Marcus. My cousin. The man I'd grown up with after both our parents died in a car accident. Her godfather. The man who'd baptized her when she was born, who came to every birthday party, who I'd trusted with my deepest fears about being a good father. Why was he coming over to our house while I was at work? And why was it a secret? I scrolled up through the message thread. More messages. Weeks of them. Months of them going back almost 2 years. Then I saw it. A message from Sophia to someone saved as Poppy in her contacts. The message said, I can't wait until I'm 18 so I can finally tell him the truth and live with you, my real dad, instead of this ex-gangbanger who thinks he's my father. The shop was completely silent except for the constant hum of the overhead lights. The smell of motor oil and brake fluid hung heavy in the air around me. My hands started shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. But I kept reading. I couldn't stop reading even though every word felt like a knife sliding between my ribs. Sophia to Marcus, do you think he knows? Like, suspects anything at all? Marcus to Sophia, no, Mija. He has absolutely no idea. And we need to keep it that way until you turn 18. Then you can make your own choices about who you want to live with. Sophia to Elena, I hate that I have to keep pretending every single day. Why did you ever marry him in the first place? Elena to Sophia, it's complicated, sweetheart. He was there when I needed someone after everything happened. But Marcus is your real father. We both know that. Just 2 more years. I stood there for 20 minutes straight, just reading. Every message was another knife. But I kept scrolling because I needed to see exactly how deep this betrayal went. I needed to understand the full scope of what they'd done to me. Marcus had told Sophia the truth 2 years ago when she turned 13. He'd sat her down in his church office, my cousin, her godfather, the man I trusted more than anyone, and he'd explained to her that when I was arrested at 18 for a fight that nearly killed someone, he'd been there to comfort Elena. One thing led to another, he told her. She got pregnant. They decided together to keep it secret. To let me think Sophia was mine so I'd marry Elena and give them both stability. For 2 full years, my 15-year-old daughter had known that I wasn't her biological father. For 2 years, she'd looked at me with barely concealed disgust. All those eye rolls when I tried to talk to her. All those slammed doors when I asked about her day. All those times she refused to hug me goodbye, told me to leave her alone, acted like my very presence in her life was some kind of unbearable punishment she had to endure. Now I finally knew why. I read through message after message between her and Marcus where she called him Poppy and asked him for advice about boys, about school drama, about college plans, about her entire future. Messages where he told her detailed stories about my past, about the violent things I'd done before I changed my life, about the people I'd hurt, about the crimes I'd committed. Things I'd deliberately kept secret from her because I didn't want my daughter to see me as some kind of monster. He'd made absolutely sure she saw me as exactly that. A thug who got lucky. An ex-gangbanger playing house and pretending to be a real father. There was an entire message thread between Sophia and her mother from just last week. Sophia had written, "I seriously can't believe I have to do this stupid father-daughter dance with him at my quinceanera. Can't Marcus do it instead? He's my actual real dad." Elena had responded, "We've already talked about this multiple times, honey. Just 2 more years and you can make whatever choices you want. Until then, we all have to keep pretending everything is normal." Sophia wrote back, "I hate pretending so much. I hate being in the same room with him. The way he looks at me like I'm his precious little princess or something. It literally makes me sick to my stomach. He's not my father. He's just some violent thug who happened to knock up my mom 20 years ago." I wanted to scream until my throat bled. I wanted to drive straight to Marcus's church right that second and burn the entire building down to ashes with him trapped inside. I wanted to grab Elena by the shoulders and shake her until she finally understood the full magnitude of what she'd done to me, what she'd stolen from me. But I didn't do any of those things. I wasn't that person anymore. I'd left that violent life behind 2 decades ago. Instead, I pulled out my personal phone and made a call that would destroy all 3 of them in ways they couldn't even begin to imagine yet. I drove 40 minutes through Phoenix rush hour traffic to get downtown. The entire drive I kept replaying those messages over and over in my head, each word burned into my memory. The truck felt suffocating, too small to contain everything I was feeling. My chest felt like someone had wrapped steel cables around it and was slowly tightening them. By the time I finally pulled into the parking garage under the massive glass office building, I'd read through everything at least 3 more times. I had screenshots of everything. I had dates and timestamps. I had all the proof I would ever need. The attorney's office was located on the 23rd floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the entire Phoenix skyline. Expensive leather furniture that probably cost more than most people's cars. The kind of place that charges $500 per hour just to sit in the waiting room. But I didn't care about the cost anymore. This particular man had been my JAG officer during my time in the Marines. He'd left military service years ago and built up a massive private practice handling complex military divorces and family law cases. We'd stayed in touch over the years, exchanged emails on holidays, met for drinks when he was in town. I trusted him completely. He took the phone from my hands and spent the next 30 minutes scrolling through messages without saying a single word. Just reading, his expression getting darker and harder with each passing minute. Finally he set the phone down very carefully on his massive mahogany desk and looked directly at me with an expression I'd never seen on his face before. "What exactly do you want me to do here?" "Scorched earth," I said without any hesitation whatsoever. "I want them to lose absolutely everything they have. Everything they care about. Everything they've built. I want complete destruction." He leaned back slowly in his expensive leather chair. The leather creaked softly under his weight. "You need to understand exactly what you're asking for here. This won't be private. This will be public. This will be brutal for everyone involved, including you. They destroyed my entire life in private for 15 years, I said, and my voice sounded hollow and dead even to my own ears. "I think it's time everyone finally knows the complete truth about what kind of people they really are." He nodded slowly, understanding exactly what I meant. Then he pulled out a yellow legal pad and started outlining a detailed plan. A 45-day military-style operation. Everything completely legal. Everything meticulously documented. Everything specifically designed to systematically dismantle their lives piece by piece while they continued smiling in my face every single day, still thinking they'd successfully gotten away with everything. The quinceanera was scheduled for exactly 45 days from today. That gave me just enough time to execute everything perfectly. "This is going to publicly humiliate your 15-year-old daughter in front of everyone she knows," he said carefully. "I need you to be absolutely certain this is what you want. She's been privately humiliating me for 2 solid years while knowing the complete truth the entire time," I responded. "I think it's past time she finally learns about real consequences for her actions." "And what about your cousin?" "He's a pastor who committed fraud by letting me raise his biological child while he poisoned her against me. I'm sure the IRS will find his church finances absolutely fascinating." The attorney started writing faster, filling page after page with detailed notes. Phase 1, comprehensive surveillance and evidence gathering. Phase 2, complete asset protection and financial separation. Phase 3, aggressive legal siege on multiple fronts. Phase 4, total public exposure at the quinceanera itself. He looked up at me with something like respect in his eyes. "You're absolutely sure about this entire plan?" I thought about every single birthday party over 15 years where Marcus had hugged me tight and called me his brother. Every Sunday family dinner where Elena had kissed me and whispered that she loved me more than anything. Every single time Sophia had looked at me with pure contempt, and I'd laid awake at night wondering what I'd possibly done wrong as a father to make my own daughter hate me so completely. I have never been more certain of anything in my entire life, I told him. Walking out of that office 90 minutes later, I felt completely different than when I'd walked in. Calmer somehow. More focused. Like I'd been drowning slowly for 2 solid years and someone had finally thrown me a lifeline at the last possible second. I had a detailed plan now. I had clear purpose. And I had exactly 45 days to execute every single step with absolute precision. That night I went home and kissed Elena like absolutely nothing was wrong. She smiled at me warmly, reached up and touched my face gently, asked me how work had been that day. I lied smoothly and said everything was fine. Every single word felt like broken glass sliding down my throat, cutting me from the inside. Sophia came down for dinner and barely even glanced in my direction. She picked at her food without any appetite, clearly wanting to be literally anywhere else. She asked if she could please be excused early. I said yes and watched her leave the table. Elena sighed heavily and said, "She's just going through a difficult phase right now. You know how teenage girls can be with their fathers." I nodded and smiled and thought about how in exactly 45 days she would finally understand exactly how things really were. The first week was pure surveillance. I installed military-grade tracking software on Sophia's phone when I returned it fully fixed to her the next evening. She didn't suspect a single thing. Just grabbed it from my hands, mumbled a quick thanks without making eye contact, and immediately went back to her room. That software captured absolutely everything. Every text message sent or received. Every photo taken or deleted. Every single thing she thought she'd erased permanently was recovered and archived with timestamps. I hired a former military intelligence officer I'd served with overseas. He set up an entire system so that everything was timestamped, encrypted, stored in multiple secure locations, and completely admissible in any court proceeding. Then I hired a private investigator who specialized in infidelity cases. Former Marine, just like me. I gave him Marcus's home address, his church address, Elena's complete daily schedule. Within just 3 days he had dozens of photographs of them meeting secretly. Not just at the church for counseling sessions, like Elena had told me. They met regularly at our vacation cabin 3 hours north of Phoenix. The cabin I'd bought with money from my business, that was titled in my name, that I genuinely believed we only used for family trips. Turns out Elena and Marcus had been using it for years. The PI got clear photographs of them there together. Nothing explicitly sexual, but more than enough to establish a clear pattern of ongoing deception and betrayal. Every single morning I kissed Elena goodbye knowing with absolute certainty that she was a liar. Every single night I tucked Sophia into bed knowing she actively hated me and was counting down the days until she could escape. The surveillance software captured everything in real time. Every "I love you so much, Poppy" text message. Every detailed complaint about me being controlling or annoying. Every message about counting down days until she turned 18 and could finally move in with her real father permanently. I was a Marine again. This was pure reconnaissance. And the enemy had absolutely no idea I was watching their every single move. Comment 1 if you think he went too far. Comment 2 if you think they deserved everything they got. Comment 3 if you've ever been betrayed by family like this. Week 2 I brought in a forensic accountant and gave him complete access to all our joint accounts, every credit card, all bank statements going back 10 years. I told him to look for anything unusual or suspicious. He came back just 3 days later with a comprehensive report that made my blood boil even hotter than it already was. Elena had been secretly tithing exactly 15% of my gross income directly to Marcus's church for the past 8 years straight. 15%. That's traditional religious tithing, sure. But I'd never once agreed to it. She'd been systematically doing it from our joint account without ever telling me. The accountant traced exactly where that money went once it hit the church's general fund. Marcus, as the senior pastor, drew a substantial salary directly from that fund. Essentially, I'd been personally paying Marcus's entire salary for 8 solid years. $45,000 of my money. I'd been directly funding the comfortable lifestyle of the man who'd gotten my wife pregnant and then let me raise his biological daughter while actively poisoning her against me. The forensic accountant found even more. Credit cards I didn't even know existed. All of them maxed out completely. Elena had marked every single charge as church donations in her private records. Another $30,000. Money systematically stolen from our future, from Sophia's college fund, all of it funneled directly to Marcus's church and ultimately to Marcus himself. I carefully documented absolutely everything. Printed multiple copies of everything. Filed everything securely away in my attorney's office safe. Week 3 I went to a private medical clinic and submitted DNA samples under a false name for privacy. Sophia's hairbrush from her bathroom. Her toothbrush. A plastic water bottle she'd left in my truck. I submitted my own cheek swab. I paid extra for rush processing. The results came back in exactly 4 days. 0% probability of paternity. Not even a fraction of a percent. Completely impossible that I was her biological father. I sat alone in my truck in the clinic parking lot staring at that official paper for 20 solid minutes. Part of me had desperately hoped I was somehow wrong about everything. That maybe the text messages were some kind of sick joke. That maybe there was some reasonable explanation I hadn't considered. But no. Science doesn't lie. Cold hard facts don't lie. Sophia wasn't mine. She had never been mine. 15 years. 15 years of dance recitals and parent-teacher conferences and Girl Scout camping trips. 15 years of birthday parties and scraped knees and teaching her to ride a bike. 15 years of loving a child with my entire heart and soul who wasn't actually mine while the man who'd actually fathered her systematically poisoned her mind against me for years. I started the truck. Drove directly to my shop. Went into my private office. Locked the door behind me. And I put my fist completely through the drywall. Then I called my attorney and told him to immediately move forward with Phase 2. Phase 2 was comprehensive asset protection. Over the next 2 weeks I quietly and completely legally began transferring everything I possibly could into an irrevocable trust. My attorney helped me establish the proper legal structure. The trust owned my business completely. The trust owned all my vehicles. The trust owned literally everything I'd built or acquired after Sophia was born. Elena would have absolutely no legal claim to any of it because she'd committed fraud. She deliberately lied about paternity for 15 years. She'd systematically stolen tens of thousands of dollars. She'd actively conspired with Marcus to deceive me for a decade and a half. I listed our house for sale. Found a buyer incredibly quickly, my former commanding officer from the Marines who was relocating his family to Phoenix and needed a place immediately. We arranged a completely private sale. He would close exactly 1 day after the quinceañera. The house would be completely gone before Elena even understood what was happening. I stopped the automatic monthly payment to Sophia's expensive private school. $35,000 per year for a girl who wasn't even biologically mine, who actively hated me, who literally couldn't wait to get away from me permanently. The school administrative office sent an automated notice asking about the missed payment. I never responded to them. I systematically canceled every single credit card Elena had any access to whatsoever. Called all the companies, reported the cards as lost or stolen, had brand new replacement cards sent directly to my shop instead of our home address. She'd eventually try to use one and find out it was completely declined. But not yet. Not until after the quinceañera when it was far too late. I opened entirely new bank accounts in only my name. Had my business payroll deposited there instead. Left just barely enough money in our old joint account to avoid raising any immediate suspicion. Elena never actually looked at bank statements anyway, so she wouldn't notice. Every single day I maintained completely normal behavior. Came home at exactly 6. Asked pleasantly about her day. Kissed her goodnight. Made love to her. Every single touch felt like a personal betrayal of myself, but I did it anyway because I desperately needed her to believe that absolutely nothing had changed. I needed her to feel completely safe. I needed all of them to genuinely think they'd successfully gotten away with everything. Week 4 I started psychological operations. I sent a carefully worded anonymous tip to Marcus's church board about potential financial irregularities that deserved investigation. Didn't provide specific details, just barely enough to make them start asking uncomfortable questions. I sent certified letters requiring signature to Elena's entire family, her parents, her sister, her younger brother. Each envelope included printed copies of the text messages. Copies of the DNA test results. A brief note that simply said, "You should know exactly what your daughter did to me before you come celebrate at the quinceañera." Elena's father called me just 2 days later. First time he'd personally called me in over 5 years. He'd never particularly liked me, never thought I was anywhere near good enough for his precious daughter. Now his voice was shaking noticeably. Is everything in these letters actually real? Every single word is completely true. Mother of God. Long silence. I'm so sorry. We never knew. We had absolutely no idea any of this was happening. You'll know absolutely everything very soon. The quinceañera is in 2 weeks. Everyone will know the complete truth. He hung up without another word. I found out later that he immediately called Elena and told her flatly that he wouldn't be attending the quinceañera. Told her she'd made her own bed and now she had to lie in it. She cried and begged him to reconsider. He hung up on her. One by one, members of her family started canceling their RSVPs. Elena started panicking, frantically asking me if I'd talked to any of them, if something had happened that she didn't know about. I told her calmly that I had absolutely no idea what was going on. She believed me completely. She'd always believed me because in 20 years of knowing her I'd never once lied to her about anything important. That was about to change forever. By day 40 I'd quietly moved everything I actually cared about into a climate-controlled storage unit in Montana. Important documents. Family photographs. Personal items with sentimental value. Anything that actually mattered to me. I'd accepted a job offer at a high-end custom auto shop in Billings. They'd been trying to recruit me for 3 years. I'd always said no because Arizona was home. Now I had absolutely nothing keeping me here anymore. I bought property outside Billings. 10 beautiful acres. A solid house. Closed on everything remotely through my attorney. Everything was completely ready for me to move in the day immediately after the quinceañera. I went to my closet and carefully pulled out my Marine Corps dress blues. Hadn't worn them in 15 years. I tried them on. They still fit absolutely perfectly. I'd maintained my physical condition, kept the military discipline. I stood in front of the mirror looking at myself in that uniform, all the medals earned, all the ribbons representing service, all the visible proof that I'd served my country honorably, and I practiced my speech. The speech I would deliver at the quinceañera. The speech that would destroy all 3 of them completely. Day 45. The day of the quinceañera finally arrived. I woke up before sunrise. Elena was still sleeping peacefully. I got dressed in workout clothes, went to the garage, and carefully loaded my briefcase. 3 manila envelopes. Each one containing legal documents that would permanently end everything. I'd already arranged for a professional process server to attend the venue while pretending to be a regular guest. He'd deliver them publicly during my speech. I went back inside the house. Made coffee. Elena came downstairs in her bathrobe, incredibly excited. Can you even believe it's finally here? Our baby girl's quinceañera. Our baby girl. I smiled and nodded. Poured her coffee. Are you excited? She asked warmly. More than you could possibly know. She kissed me deeply. Told me she loved me. I said it back. The words tasted like ash and poison. Sophia came downstairs an hour later. Her dress was already at the venue. She'd be getting ready there with all her friends. She barely even glanced in my direction. Just grabbed a granola bar and some orange juice. Excited for today? I asked pleasantly. She just shrugged. I guess. I'm really looking forward to our father-daughter dance, I said. She rolled her eyes dramatically. Whatever. Elena shot her a sharp look. Sophia, be nice. Your father has worked incredibly hard to make this day special for you. Sophia muttered something under her breath and left. I watched her walk away. In just a few hours, she would finally understand what hard work and consequences really meant. The venue was a large banquet hall near Scottsdale. Elena had spent literally months planning every single detail. Ice sculptures. Full mariachi band. Expensive catered food. Open bar. She'd invited exactly 200 people. Extended family, friends, church members, business associates. Everyone we knew. Everyone who thought we were the perfect family. I arrived deliberately late, after most guests had already shown up. I sat in my truck in the parking lot for 5 full minutes just breathing deeply. I was wearing my Marine Corps dress blues. Every single medal I'd earned. Every ribbon. The uniform fit me like it was custom made. I looked in the rearview mirror. The man looking back was a decorated Marine. A warrior. Someone who'd served his country honorably, earned his place in the world, built something meaningful from nothing. I was genuinely proud of who I'd become. And I was about to make absolutely certain that everyone knew it. I walked into the venue and the entire room went completely quiet. People stared openly. Started whispering to each other. Most of them had never once seen me in my military uniform. To them I was just the mechanic, the business owner, the guy who used to run with gangs. Now they saw something completely different. Elena saw me and her eyes went huge. She rushed over immediately. You didn't tell me you were wearing your uniform. I wanted it to be a surprise. She touched my chest, running her fingers over the medals. You look so incredibly handsome. Marcus appeared behind her. My cousin. The man I'd trusted with absolutely everything. He was wearing his pastor collar, his expensive tailored suit. He smiled wide and held out his hand. Brother. You honor us all. Thank you for everything you've done for Sophia. I shook his hand firmly. Thought about breaking every single bone in it. Instead I smiled back. Everything I've done? We'll definitely talk about that very soon. He laughed and clapped me on the shoulder, then walked away. He had absolutely no idea what was coming. Sophia saw me from across the crowded room. She was in her white quinceañera dress, surrounded by all her friends. She looked at me in my uniform and immediately rolled her eyes, turned back to her friends, said something that made them all laugh. I knew exactly what she'd said. Something about me showing off. Something about me being pathetic. In 3 hours, she wouldn't be laughing anymore. The DJ announced it was time for speeches. Parents first, then godparents. Elena went first. Talked about how incredibly proud she was, how beautiful Sophia looked, how fast time had flown by. Everyone applauded warmly. Marcus went next. Talked about what an honor it was to be Sophia's godfather, how he'd watched her grow up, how special she was. Everyone applauded again. Then it was my turn. I walked slowly to the microphone. 200 people fell completely silent. I stood at perfect military attention and looked out at all of them. 15 years ago, I thought I became a father. Elena smiled warmly. Dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. I was 24 years old. I'd just left gang life behind forever. Just joined the Marines. I was desperately trying to build something legitimate. Something honorable. When Elena told me she was pregnant, I promised myself I would be the father I never had growing up. People nodded. Several women were already crying. I did 2 full tours overseas. Came home and learned a trade. Built a business from absolutely nothing. 3 locations. 20 employees. I worked 80-hour weeks so my daughter could have the absolute best education, the best opportunities. I coached her soccer team. I led her Girl Scout troop. I showed up to every single recital, every parent-teacher conference, every moment of her life. Sophia looked uncomfortable. Marcus looked proud. Elena was crying. I thought I was building a real family. But there's something all of you need to know right now. I pulled out the tablet. Connected it to the venue's projection system. The massive screen behind me lit up bright. These are actual text messages between my wife, my cousin, and the girl I thought was my daughter. The messages started scrolling automatically. Perfectly timed. Every single cruel word. Every lie. Every moment of betrayal displayed in crystal clear high definition for everyone to see. Sophia to Marcus, I can't wait to live with you, my real dad, instead of this ex-gangbanger. Elena to Sophia, we need to keep pretending until you're 18. Marcus to Sophia, don't tell him the truth. He can't handle it. The room absolutely erupted. Gasps. Screams. Someone's glass shattered on the floor. Elena stood up, her face completely white. Turn it off. Please. We can explain everything. I didn't turn it off. The messages kept scrolling relentlessly. Sophia to her friend, I have to pretend my dad is actually my dad. It's so gross. Marcus to Elena, thank you for keeping our secret all these years. Marcus tried to leave. 2 of my former Marine buddies I'd personally invited blocked his path. They stood there with arms crossed. Marcus sat back down. I raised my voice over the chaos. These messages are time-stamped. Authenticated. Completely admissible in court. Marcus knew for 15 years that Sophia is his biological daughter. He let me pay for absolutely everything while he poisoned her against me. Elena knew from day 1 and chose to lie every single day for 15 years. Sophia knew for 2 years and chose cruelty. I signaled the process server. He walked forward through the stunned crowd. Envelope 1. He walked directly to Elena. Divorce papers. You'll receive 50% of marital assets calculated from 15 years ago, the day Sophia was born. Everything I built since then is protected in trust. You'll also receive an invoice for your half of Sophia's expenses. $312,000. Elena opened it. Started sobbing. Envelope 2. He walked to Marcus. Lawsuit for fraud. $624,000. Criminal complaint for church fund misuse. The IRS has copies. You're done. Marcus read it. His knees buckled. Envelope 3. He walked to Sophia. Birth certificate with my name removed. College fund closed. You're his responsibility now. She started screaming. Daddy, please. I'm not your daddy. Ask him. I executed a perfect about-face and marched out. Halfway to my truck, Marcus grabbed my arm. I loved her. You raped her while I was in jail. He shoved me. I broke his nose with 1 strike. He dropped. I drove away and never looked back. If you enjoyed this, hit like and subscribe. Comment below, did Sophia deserve a second chance? Thank you for watching. I'll see you in next one.